Welcome to the Broncos Podcast with Troy Renck. I am your host, Troy Renck from the Denver Post. Exhale. What an absolute circus we were treated to on Monday night. The Broncos get back in prime time and play one of the most fascinating home games I have ever covered there. And I've been covering home games there off and on since 1993. The entire 96 through 2000, and then every home game since 2014. Never covered a home game like that. Thank God for famous Jameis. This guy, Jameis Winston, plays quarterback like he's at recess. He's just throwing to everybody. He keeps everyone happy. Kids on his team, kids on the other team. He is unintentionally funny, and that allowed the Broncos to escape. And because Jerry Jeudy, hey, Jude, he puts up a legacy game. I mean, can you imagine if the Broncos had lost as Jerry Jeudy posts a legacy game? But alas, Broncos find a way, 2 pick sixes. Bo Nix makes a couple of absolute dime throws. Your Broncos clarified one thing. They can win in a different way. They are contenders, folks. I told you after the Chiefs game, when they lost, I thought that was the game that was going to propel them to the playoffs. Well, now everything's in front of them at 8-5. Everything. They beat the Colts, and then pretty much Miami or the Colts lose again. They're in. But 10 is the number you really look to, but they control their destiny in ways that are so appeasing for a team that has not been to the playoffs since 2015, the Super Bowl year. It's had 7 straight losing seasons. Broncos country, enjoy this. Catch your breath. It wasn't pretty. It was ugly. It left you queasy. It left you Judy, but it left you with a victory. So we're going to get to all of that after the break. Have you been injured in a car wreck or hurt at work? What are you waiting for? Give my friends at Hoggett Injury Law a call. Their motto, with us, it's personal. That's because it is. I've known Darby Hoggett forever. We traveled the country watching our boys play baseball. I coached his son in baseball and basketball, a great family. I became good friends with Darby. Many of his clients become his good friend. You don't even have to pay Darby up front. If your case goes as planned, Darby will be the one writing checks to you. That sounds good. So again, if you have been injured in a car wreck or hurt at work, give Darby a call. His team's number, 1-833-HOGGATT. That's 1-833-HOGGET. Or visit the website at hoggettlaw.com. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, and college to NHL to UFC. Head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. BLEAV for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Welcome back to the Broncos pod. I am your host, Troy Renck from the Denver Post. Big A's behind the screen. We both had long nights. That Broncos game, I finally got to sleep probably around 2:33 a.m. It was exhilarating. I did not cover in person the Payton Manning victory over the Cowboys, the 51-48, the bootleg game when he juked out DeMarcus Ware. That was in Dallas. But if you're going to say the Broncos finally have a Monday night crowd, like they had played on Monday night in 2020 against the Titans, that was COVID. We can't count cardboard South Park cutouts as a crowd. Let's be real. That was their first Monday night real home game in front of their fans. And 41-32? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It was hard to keep track of. And I covered the Manning years, 2 of them. And that's what it reminded me of. Every time you looked up, something new was happening. And it's just such a juxtaposition of the previous 7 years around here where, man, they get to 17, 20 points. You're like, okay, foot off the gas. Let's hope their defense comes up with a stop and they win. Not this game. This was an absolute just circus of a game. In the Broncos defense, I had someone reach out to me on Twitter last night, and they're like, I don't like your headline. The defense won this game. Did they? The defense survived this game. The defense gave up 552 yards. They had given up 400-plus yards with 8 minutes left in the third quarter. And my good buddy Andrew Mason came up with this stat. Over the last 10 years, teams that have given up 550 yards are 5-41 in those games. So now it's 6-41. You don't win when you give up that many games. That many yards. You just don't do it. It's impossible, right? It's not because of famous Jameis Winston. 2 pick sixes. This guy, Jameis Winston's stat line. I hope you've got your coffee, and I hope if you're driving, please keep your eyes on the road, because this is one of the most bizarre stat lines in the history of the NFL. 34 for 58, 497 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 2 pick sixes, and a partridge in a pear tree. I mean, it is 4-3-2, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 2 pick sixes. He said afterward, and I'm not mocking this, it's just Jameis at times can be unintentionally funny, that he's asking the Lord to free him from pick sixes. That he has to play his best when it matters most in the fourth quarter. And he literally was reaching out to the Lord in the press conference, asking him to free him of the pick six. Remember, the reason Jameis left Tampa Bay was the famous 30 for 30 season. He lands with Sean Payton. He got guardrails, and he was better there. It's just, in the modern NFL, it's fun. It's fun with the way Jameis plays the position. It is very difficult to win in the modern NFL when you turn the ball over. It's a turnover-averse league. So Jameis Winston puts together one of the all-time stat lines. And who benefited most from it? Jerry Jeudy. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So let's get into that real quick. Jeudy comes into the game. He had said to Tony Grossi from, I think it's the Clevelandland.com. Grossi's been a Cleveland reporter for years. He says, leading up to the game, I want to whip their asses, meaning the Broncos. Hey, good for Jeudy. You can read my column on Jeudy that ran Sunday. I said the Broncos, Jeudy, are better off without each other for a number of reasons. One, he asked for a trade. He didn't have to. Sean Payton was ready to move on, in part because when Jerry was not the primary target, he would lose interest in the play. Jerry wanted to move on because he didn't feel like he was being used effectively. And I'll defend Jerry, and I did at times throughout his career here. 4 head coaches, if you count Rosberg, 7 quarterbacks. Did he put himself in position to be criticized? Yeah, he had 5 drops in one game as a rookie. He didn't live up to his first-round reputation when you look at what Justin Jefferson did, what Brandon Ayuk did, guys that were drafted after him. But he's always, I've said this guy's better in space than NASA. He can get open. He's an elite route runner, but he needs to be the primary guy. He needs a quarterback to trust him. And he, other than small stretches at the end of 2022, the beginning of that Teddy Bridgewater season, he didn't really have that. So he moves on and he gets paid. He gets the bag. That's more than anything. That's why Sean Payton moved on from him. They were over having one of the highest paid receiver rooms with Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler. That whole group, it just never worked. Courtland Sutton, that whole group together never worked. And for whatever reason, when Sutton and Jeudy played together, they didn't produce. It was a one or the other. It was the craziest thing. Sutton with Jeudy, Jeudy would do great, Sutton would disappear. Then Jeudy gets hurt, Sutton pops up. They could never produce together. So he moves on. And he came into this game with an edge. I love the passion he played with. Frankly, I wish I'd have seen more of that when he played here. Last year, he couldn't figure out how to stay on a string with Russell Wilson. And then when Russell would put his eyes down, meet him where he runs. And I would talk to Jerry about that. And he'd say, I'm open. He literally would say, he's like 7-Eleven. I'm always open. Watch the film. And I would tell him, I told Jerry on multiple occasions, I agree with you. The problem is when you're open, Russ's eyes are down. He's not seeing you. So he wasn't getting open when the quarterback was seeing him. Well, Jameis Winston, he's locked onto him. And for reasons that will never make sense to me, the Broncos did not have Pat Surtain travel with Jeudy, and Levi Wallace has grill marks on his jersey. I'm not sure Levi Wallace is going to be on the team at the end of today or the end of this week. They have a decision to make on whether to activate Josh Reynolds for the rest of the season, which I think they will, Are they going to cut Wallace and just keep Chris Abrams drained? They finally benched him. Wallace is a good dude. He's been a functional corner in his limited time here. Last night, he looked disinterested. He looked confused. His effort was questionable. I don't know what was going on with him. He was out of position. He didn't give up all the yards. Jeudy had some yards on Surtain, but the big plays were against busted coverage or Levi Wallace. So Jerry Jeudy, a legacy game. 9 catches, 235 yards, a 70-yard touchdown. First play of the game, 44 yards. He had 14 yards on 2 catches, 13 targets. Here's what's crazy. Jeudy, in 4 years with the Broncos, had 200-yard games at home. Last night, he set the record for a Broncos opposing receiver with 235 yards. That's the most yards of opposing receivers ever got against the Broncos, which is saying something if you watch the San Francisco Broncos Super Bowl with Jerry Rice. But when I watched Levi Wallace, he conjured memories of Tony Little, the defensive back, who might have played the worst game I've ever seen by a Broncos defensive back in the day. Wallace is now in that conversation. But credit to Jerry Jeudy, cap tip to him. Afterward, he was asked about the boos. He said, yeah, I heard the boos. You know what it means when there's a lot of boos? That means I had a lot of catches. He's right. He met up with teammates afterward. He hugged it out. Guys genuinely liked Jeudy. There was no real issue with Jeudy. It just was a lot of drama that last year. He didn't feel appreciated. He didn't feel like he was being used. And I wrote in my column, it was better off for both. I was happy Jerry got a fresh start, happy he got paid. The Broncos were moving on with the new business model with Vele and with Troy Franklin. And last night, Vele catches the ball, Franklin catches 2 balls, and Mims, the guy we thought was going to replace Jeudy, Marvin Mims, he has 3 catches for 105 yards, including, a 93-yarder that is right now the best throw of Bo Nix's career. An absolute laser beam down the middle of the field. Somehow the Browns may be watching the Broncos thinking, Levi Wallace on Jeudy, we can do you one better. We're going to put a linebacker on Marvin Mims. So Mims darts straight up the field, gets past the linebacker. Denzel Ward sees it, not panics, but tries to help. He dives for the ball, and there's Mims catching it in stride for 93 yards. So there is irony that on the night Jeudy produces a legacy game, the guy that was supposed to get his reps when the season began in his absence was Mims. Mims throws out 100 yards. Sutton throws out 100 yards, 6 for 102. And the Broncos find a way. How did that happen? Well, Jeudy got his revenge. The Broncos got the win. And how did that happen? Buckle in. A final drive. A final drive is what the Broncos needed to win this game. And they did it. And I didn't think Bo Nix was ready to win a game this way. I write in my column today, and I hope you read it at the Denver Post, denverpost.com/sports Broncos. You can find all my columns there. When you think of the Broncos and Broncos country, folks, you have this ideal image of what the team looks like when it's right. And it typically, from my conversation with Broncos fans, from growing up here, living almost my entire life here, you close your eyes, and what does it look like when it's right? It involves John Elway, just absolute 2-minute drive to just mesmerize the opposing team, or Peyton Manning dissecting the opposing defense like a frog in high school biology class. This was Bo's moment. And it was still a weird moment, but it was Bo's moment. The Broncos got the ball back with almost 9 minutes remaining, down 32-31. This isn't the type of game I thought they could win. A shootout. Like, it's one thing if you want to go punch for punch with Gardner Minshew. It's another thing if you want him to get into a laser show with the human glow stick that is Jameis Winston. He's not going to stop throwing. When you talk about throwing punches, he's Apollo Creed in Rocky II, which my wife and I just watched the other day. Like 80 punches in the first 2 rounds, that's Jameis Winston. He will not stop throwing punches, throwing deep. That's not the way I thought the Broncos could win this game or would try to win it. And they kind of fell into the trap. Payton got intoxicated by it. There was just an ugly interception after a stop where Nick's first play of possession of the first quarter throws a pick. It functioned like a punt. But what are we doing? Run the damn ball. And please, for the love of God, play Audric Estime. Again, it's not personal with Javonte Williams. I don't know what else you need to see from him to understand he's not the number one back. He finished last night 4 carries, 1 yard. McLaughlin 14 for 84. That's fine. I just don't understand the role of estimate. But good for McLaughlin, career game. That's a different point. But the Broncos get the ball back. Right around 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, trailing 32-31. These are the moments that define seasons, folks. Can they put a drive together? Can Bo Nix put a drive together? And he did. And what did he do? If you've been watching this season, where do you think he's going to go? If there's one thing that helps a rookie quarterback, it's trust. And no one does Bo Nix trust more or believe in than Courtland Sutton. And he gets that drive going with a 19-yarder. Next thing you know, he finds little used Lucas Kroll for a 12-yard thing. That put him in field goal range. Another pass to Sutton, another pass to Mims. So 4 completions on that drive. Remember, they took over with almost 9 minutes remaining. They desperately needed to keep their defense off the field, grind some clock. You want to do it on the ground. It really wasn't working that way. They find a way to get down the field. They face a 4th and 1 from the 9-yard line, 2:57 remaining. And you think, Sean Payton, aggressive. You think back to that Raiders game with that just bizarre possession at the end where he throws 3 times and takes 15 seconds off the clock and says, like, we are going for the knockout. It was like, or take some time off the clock. Run the clock, make them use some timeouts. Throw maybe on 3rd down. No, we're going for it. Well, now in the same situation on 4th and 1, trailing by 1, a chance to really run the clock out, if you will. Instead of going for the sledgehammer, Sean Payton went for the toenail clippers, folks. He calls a timeout and he brings out Will Lutz. I was surprised by the decision just because to put the game in the defense's hands at that point felt beyond risky. Like if you were going to do the Pikes Peak hill climb during the winter, like that kind of risk, that kind of scary. His defense was not having a good night. There's just no way around it. It's the worst game the defense has played this season, statistically in every measure. But Nick Bonito's pick 6 put him in position to win. Now here they are. They go up. It's a 27-yard field goal by Will Lutz. You're up 34-22 with about 2:50 remaining. Your defense has to come up with a stand. Somebody has to make a play. It wasn't going to be Levi Wallace. At that point, he had been benched for Chris Abrams' strain. Maybe that's the accelerant just to change the vibe. I'm not blaming the entire game on Wallace. Guys have bad games. It's just there's bad games and I'm not sure you're still going to be working here game by the end of the night. And it was that bad for Wallace. I mean, he had his first 5 receptions, he allowed 137 yards. I mean, the guy was just getting absolutely toasted. But here they go. You need a play. And Jameis will give you an opportunity. It is the bizarre thing with Winston. He can be so hot, like a pitcher. Strikeout, no-hit stuff. And then walk, grand slam. Like he is the absolute. This was the absolute snapshot of the Jameis Winston experience. When he's hot, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And when he's not, he's an absolute disaster from a turnovers perspective. He drops back. Jaquan McMillan, who's made a case as a slot guy to be a Pro Bowler, who plays with an edge, who plays with an attitude. He reminds me so much of Chris Harris. He jumps in, intercepts the ball, gets up, falls down, gets up, pick 6, and that clinched it. The Browns get the ball back, and then Jameis threw another, what could have been his 3rd pick 6, to linebacker Cody Barton. Barton nearly scored as well. But the McMillan interception, the pick 6, that finally ended it. That's where the final score ended at 41-32. Jameis Winston ended up with 668 yards he was responsible for. He had 497 for himself and 198 in interception return yards. 668 yards between guys who caught his passes on both teams. Like, you may live the rest of your life, certainly my life, and never see a stat line like that. But let's be honest. In the past, the Broncos lose that game. They lose that game. But Bo put together, Jeudy got his revenge. Bo put together a final drive. And if you're going to have a special season, if you're going to have a season when you break the 7-year losing streak of losing seasons and you get to the playoffs for the first time since 15, there's going to be a few moments in there where you're like, man, how did they win that game? They won the game last night because Nick Bonito, who's making a case for all pro, not just Pro Bowl, he got a pick six. Nick Bonito, and I hate when they drop their edge rushers in coverage. Nick Bonito was lined up outside in coverage, and Winston threw it right to him. Probably not anticipating that that edge rusher was going to stay in coverage, but it wasn't. It was weird because Bonito didn't line up and drop into coverage. He had a situation where he lined up in coverage with him and made an unbelievable play and he caught it. And Benito, Mims will tell you, these two were teammates in Oklahoma. Mims has one of the best first steps, shuttle steps, great hands. But for an edge rusher to make that play, that brought up images of Von Miller in the AFC Championship game cutting in front of a pass from Tom Brady to Rob Gronkowski. Von is the only outside linebacker the Broncos have had that could drop in coverage in a wheel route, deep on a route, and legitimately play it like a corner. Benito has that kind of athleticism. I don't like it, but this wasn't a wheel route. He just dropped into coverage and put the seatbelt down, strap it in, a pick six. And that's how the Broncos find a way to win, is 2 pick sixes. Benito kept them in there early, and then that second half, Bo Nix finds traction, makes enough plays. But when we think about this game, we're going to remember it for Jerry Jeudy. But thankfully for Broncos country, because Broncos country was over Jerry Jeudy. And it was when people, they don't sometimes naturally don't understand, like, what was the issue with Jeudy? It was a lot of stuff. It was the subtweeting, him constantly in Twitter wars with Shannon Sharp, Mark Schlereth, Rod Smith, Philip Lindsay. He got into it on the sidelines with Steve Smith from NFL Network before a Chiefs game. And I defended Jeudy for that. I thought Steve Smith was totally out of line, pretending to be his friend after he'd just been ripping him on air for weeks. Jeudy had a way for finding drama, and he wasn't reciprocating with the big stats. And he was frustrated. And then he got arrested for a point where he secured the property of the woman who was the mother of his child and wouldn't give her back her phone. And then he spends a night in jail. And he learned from that. Jerry matured him. He did some. I covered 3 of his football camps. Jerry Jeudy around kids, and those situations was amazing. He honored his sister last night with his "My Cleats, My Cause." There's a lot of layers to the Jerry Jeudy story. But every time we thought it was going to take shape, where you're like, this is the guy. This is the guy from Alabama I loved watching. This is the guy that was a star from when high school in Florida to Alabama. Now here we go. And it never really clicked other than a game here, a game there. But Jeudy believed all along he had that kind of talent. But he needs to be a number one. The best thing that happened to Jeudy, 2 things happened. Deshaun Watson got benched and hurt. Well, not hurt, but disgraced Deshaun Watson. Unfortunately got hurt. He's probably, I can't imagine he ever plays another game for the Browns, cap hit notwithstanding. Jerry Jeudy's 3 games leading up to when Jameis Winston took over, 1 catch, 1 catch, 1 catch. Season is going nowhere. Jameis Winston takes over. And now Jeudy becomes his primary target. They traded Amari Cooper. That's where Jeudy flourishes, when he knows he's the guy. And that happened at the end of 2022. Sutton, I believe, was dealing with a hamstring. Jeudy starts feeling himself like, hey, I'm the guy. They want me. He needs his team to believe in him. Cleveland showed him that with the contract. And then when Cooper got traded to Buffalo, it cleared a path for Jeudy. And he took advantage. So congratulations to Jeudy. I have no ill will toward Jeudy. Would it have stung if the Browns had won because of Jeudy? Oh, my God, yes. Yes. But kind of like his career in Denver, he had great moments, but not enough wins. And it wasn't his fault. They didn't win. But Jeudy puts together a legacy game. And here we wake up on Tuesday morning, and we're talking about Bo Nix and his laser to Marvin Mims. We're talking about the Broncos, folks, winning in a way they hadn't won all season. They won by smothering the Bucs, by just absolutely suffocating a washed-up Aaron Rodgers. They won by making Gardner Minshew miserable. They won with style points in brooming the NFC South. But they had never won a track meet. This was a drag race. I thought I was at Bandimere Speedway last night. An absolute drag race. And the Broncos won. That's why you should feel good about this game, folks. In December, you got to win in multiple ways. You got to make plays in the fourth quarter on both sides of the ball. You got to be able to put a drive together. Bo Nix did. You got to be able to come up with a big turnover. Jaquan McMillan did. That's how you get to 10 wins. That's how you get to the playoffs. That's how you give yourself a chance. As we sit here today, the Broncos are 7th seed. They're tied with the Ravens with the record, but they'd lose the head-to-head. They would play Buffalo. That's not a great matchup. Who cares? Getting this team to the playoffs is critical. Maybe they could sneak up to a 6th seed. With the Chargers having no J.K. Dobbins, maybe you sneak up and get a 6th seed, and wouldn't that be delicious? There would then be the possibility you would play at Pittsburgh against Russell Wilson in the playoffs. Oh, my Lord. The internet in Denver, Colorado might melt down if it is the Broncos versus the Steelers in the wild card round. But that's another day. We've already seen one revenge game. I don't know if the Broncos country could handle a Russell Wilson revenge game. But feel good about it, folks. The Broncos find a way to win. Jeudy gets his stats. The Broncos get a win. They're now on a bye week. They're 8-5. They're the 7th seed, and they have a break, and they come back home and welcome after the break the Colts. They win that game, folks, and they are firmly in control. That gives them 9 wins. That's a winning season. Let's not dismiss how important that is, but it gives them clear E470 path to the playoffs. So take it all in, deep breath, acknowledge what happened, and enjoy it. You deserve this, Broncos country. Last year, I don't know any time over the last 7 years, they don't win this game, but they did. In front of prime time, they win it. Hope you enjoyed it, folks. I could not do this pod without Big A behind the screen producing. Got up early after a long night. We were all out there late. Could not do this pod without Nate Lundy of Mile High Sports. He's the best. Darby Hoggett, my A1 from day one. And, of course, Bet Online, our new sponsor. Broncos country, I do this pod for you. Happiness that begins with me. Go out there and have a great day.